when is it okay to use open questions and closed questions? And is it okay to use both?
All right, well, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Inquiry Zone. This is John.
Welcome back.
Welcome
I hope
back.
you all had a great summer, and we are here for season 2 of the Inquiry Zone.
Bigger and better. And it's not just a duo today, although most times we'll have a duo, but this will be of 3 of us here. And today we have with us is...
Hello, my name is Aliya Caldwell.
Yes, and she is not just a guest, because we've had guests before on our show. She is a new member of the series. Welcome.
So welcome to Ethos. All right, this is great. So, and she's already been out in the field a little bit today already. So we don't waste any time around here. That's for sure. And I think you brought us a question. This is what we love on these Fridays.
I sure did. I brought a question from the lovely teachers at South Bend Community Schools. They want to know, when is it okay to use open questions and closed questions? And is it okay to use both?
Yeah,
that is such an awesome question. I was so excited when I heard the teacher ask that, because it really is a great question. You know, we tell teachers when we use the inquiry process that we want the students to ask questions, and we talk about the difference between open and closed. So then it naturally comes up, all right, well, should I use only one of those? Is the one that is the best one, and should I eliminate the others? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too, as far as we're not going to try to step on anybody's toes, is that the short answer is we're trying to move everybody towards more open questions because the inquiry leads to that. Yes. But I think the other short answer is it's okay to use both. And if you're in a district that's saying, hey, everybody should be going to open, you've got a little bit of liberty here, because as a teacher, there's times when each is appropriate. So we need to talk about that. All right. So
I would say first, let's review for those that maybe haven't seen any of the videos or learned more about inquiry. What is the difference between an open and closed question?
So Douglas, do you know what the difference is between an open and closed question?
Oh, wait, you just asked me a question.
Ah.
Did you ask me open or closed? Did I just ask an open or closed question?
So I think, Aliya, what is that, open or closed?
I think I opened and closed the door and you're both crazy.
Well, okay, so what's the difference between open and closed question then?
An open question leads to more inquiry. It doesn't have a yes or no, true, false kind of answer. And typically it requires more time and more research. I call the closed question the conversation killer, because it ends a conversation. It's a yes, no, move on from the point.
Very good.
I remember in the classroom when I would talk about open and closed questions, I would tell my students, ask me a question. If I could say yes or no and move on to the next student, you just close that conversation. You just ask me a closed question, which we do not want, especially in science inquiry.
And it's easy as a teacher. I know that I've gone to try to help a group at a table, and you go up to them and you ask them a question, and you realize you gave them a closed question and you really wanted a discussion. You wanted them to say more than, you know, what'd you do today? Nothing. You know, that's a closed, that could be a very closed question. You know, what is going on here that made that happen? Why do you think that came? You know, we're trying to lead them into a way so you can't just give me that one little short answer. But yeah, those conversation closers is one of those things as teachers we've all experienced. And then you're like backpedaling. All right, what, I have to ask another question now, or I'm done. You know, so how do we change it? If you got a closed question, how do you make it into an open question?
Well, one thing I've thought about, and I've worked in my classroom, is I think of the question word. So I tell my students, okay, you asked a closed question. All right, that's fine, but let's flip it. Let's open that door. Let's open that question. So think of the question words we're using. And I would always try to encourage them to use how and why. So can we restructure? Can we re-ask your question, but start with why or how? Now, that doesn't mean those are the only two ways to do open. You can use the others, but I found those were the easiest ways when I was trying to introduce this idea of flipping the questions.
That's a good point. I remember listening to a early elementary teacher talking about this, and she used thin and thick.
Yes.
Okay, I think for little
That's a
kids,
great example.
that might help, because I think a kid could think, is this a thin question, which, there's not much to say once you're done, or is it a thick question that has a longer response and more that's being happened there? Yeah. So do we think it's appropriate to use closed questions? I mean, when do you want to use a closed question?
Well, I think it's appropriate to use it if you're trying to check for misconceptions, check for quick understanding, because before you move on to more complex examples and ideas in science, or even in math and language arts, there's prerequisites our kids must have. There's facts they need to know in order to build upon that. So asking a quick closed question now and then, I think, is appropriate, as long as that's not the only or the majority of type of questions you are asking.
And I think sometimes students need closure with investigations and things. And I think about from my early elementary brain, like students wanting to know, does the animal eat this type of other animal? Is this animal a carnivore or an herbivore? I don't know that that's really an open-ended question, because either they're a carnivore or they're not. There's not really a lot of room for us to change that. But I think you could ask, why do you think this animal is a carnivore? Is it because of their location, their habitat? Is it because of their adaptations physically? So I think you can flip it, but sometimes I think, especially in younger elementary, they need a definitive on some things we study.
Yeah, and it is that time management thing. Sometimes as a teacher, we're looking at how much time we have to do things and what's coming up. And if we just keep rolling from open as we go, we're going to go on forever. It is a lot more fun. It's a lot more fun. And I know when I worked in different phases of doing inquiry with students, like let's say we're in an investigation and they're going into things where I need to move on to another group. I guess two ways to look at this. One is sometimes I might ask a closed question because we're at a point where we need to wrap things up. But I do actually like to leave them with an open question when I leave. I love to give students an open question in response, especially to a question they just asked me, and they're thinking, and I think, hey, you guys got this, I'll be back. And I take off to another group, I'll come back and circle around. So I think there's some clever ways to realize that, to use these open and closed questions. Yeah.
And I think they're both appropriate as long as you use them correctly in the class. But when thinking of the inquiry mindset, though, we do want to push more towards that open, because those closed questions, you won't get very far in your investigation. So they can be useful, but we also want to think, when we think of the inquiry zone, the inquiry mindset, we want to push towards those open-ended, those thick type of questions.
Okay, so wait, I'm thinking here. If you got an open question and these things tend to take off, don't we as teachers need to answer every question our kids ask?
Yes, because we're experts, right?
Oh, he's not agreeing.
No. I think one of the most powerful tools we have as a teacher is to say, I don't know.
That's right. And it's okay to say that.
And it's okay to say that. And I think by modeling that, it teaches our students that it's great to research, it's great to wonder, it's great to inquire. But I think when we put ourselves in the box of feeling like we have to be the expert, that it puts them in the box of feeling like they can't ask those questions.
That's good. We have to remember that everything is a skill to be learned. And so an exercise worth doing with the students, and I think both of you have done this, I know in your class with your own students, and the thing is, hey, let's make a long list of questions. So we've done observations. Let's make some questions based on our observations. And now let's take some time and let's categorize these. Which of these questions are open questions? Which of these are closed questions? This is an exercise which I think most of us would just skip past, but it's such an educational experience, and it really makes the kids reflect. And we're thinking of the level of learning and Bloom's taxonomy and all that. We know that the closed questions down at the bottom and these open questions are up at the top where we want our kids. So when they're appropriate, but it's good to let the kids know that what they are, so they can recognize themselves. what those are so that we can have a better dialogue with our kids.
I think that was a great question, and I'm
Good.
so glad that we had the opportunity to talk about it. And that's what I appreciate about the questions that you all submit to us, because we could be able to go more in depth in this, that we may always not have time to do that in a PD session, because we're very aware of the time and we want to make sure everything is meaningful. So thank you for these questions so we can help communicate and support everyone.
Very much so. So always don't forget, there's a little link off to the side there for Ethos. Check us out, but also the Inquiry Zone, subscribe and send your questions. So the link is there. Send in an email with whatever questions you have related to inquiry and science education. And we love talking about it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Make sure you go back to season 1. Check out all the videos that we've already created, all for you. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you to our new partners, the outstanding teachers in the South Bend Community Schools, as you join the Inquiry Zone this fall. And also to the dedicated teachers in the Boggo Community Schools as we begin Inquiry Zone together. Thank you. ETHOS offers the Inquiry Zone professional development to schools. Helping to ensure a robust, fun, and cross-curricular approach to science is supported in all grades. Please contact us at contact@ethosinc.org.